Welcome to Complexity Made Simple, and my name is Paul Allen. And before we get into today's fantastic video newsletter, what I'd like to talk to you about is all the materials that you can purchase to help to support the channel. We've got these fantastic textbooks that range from the simple statistical process control for small batch production. We've got the 7 quality tools for world-class problem solving, which is essentially yellow belt material. Then we move on to design of experiments for 21st century engineers. Every engineer and scientist needs to be able to do design of experiments. And then finally, drink tea and read the paper. The most fantastic green belt handbook you can buy on the market today, full of practical tips and fantastic physics that'll help you become a world-class engineer and a world-class quality engineer. Of course, you can also click on the link to buy me a coffee and make a donation. That would be fantastic. But at the very least, click on subscribe, click on like the video, because it all helps to support the channel. Many thanks for your help, and now on to today's video. Welcome to the latest video, and in this video newsletter what we're going to talk about is about being inquisitive and always experimenting for a better way. So I want you to be inquisitive, if I can spell it. There we go, be inquisitive. Now what this relates to is I was watching something about just generally about how to be successful in whatever career you're in, and somebody talked about retaining the inquisitiveness of being a child. You know, children constantly they ask a question, and if you say, well, that's what everybody does, son, they'll always say, why? And they keep asking why. Why do you do that? Why is it better? Why does everybody do this? And as I was watching the comment, I just thought, yep, that's exactly what we should be doing in manufacturing. We should remain inquisitive, and we should be asking why and testing for better ways of working. And so what I want to do is to talk about some simple examples of what you should be doing. And the example I'm going to use is this. I'm going to talk about MRP, ERP type systems. Okay, now, one of the things that when I was watching this comment they were talking about is the fact that, everybody does it. And when you get older and you're an adult, you have a tendency to go, everybody's doing it. Yeah, must be okay. And certainly as a consultant, I go from company to company to company, unique people in unique businesses, and yet they're all behaving the same, and none of the systems work properly. And it's always fascinated me, why do we do that? And maybe that's why I'm a consultant, because I'm always asking why. Is there a better way? What is the best way currently of getting components to move through a factory, getting materials to move across supply chains? Well, the system everybody uses is this, and I'll make a challenge to you. Does anybody have an MRP, ERP system that works? Now, I've made this challenge before. Does anybody have a system that works? What I mean by that is that nobody has to interfere with it. You put the numbers in one end, you put all the raw materials in, the computer spits out orders, tells the supply chain to do stuff, all the raw material arrives, we make it, everything works, brilliant. Or Are you knife and forking everything through the system? Do you run out of certain raw materials that you use every day? Do you have too much of raw materials that you don't use at all? Are you constantly progress chasing? Is your on-time delivery absolutely appalling, or is it brilliant? So I'm going to ask a question. Nobody ever answers this one, but anybody got a system that works? I'd love to hear from somebody. So, okay, here's what I want you to do. Why don't you experiment with the system? You got a number of things you could do. You could experiment with settings. All right, so personally, I don't like these things. I think they're too complex. I don't think you'll ever figure out how they work properly. But let's be open, let's be inquisitive. You could look at settings inside your machine, minimum order quantities, batch sizes, other, I would call, standard settings, static settings that never move. Be inquisitive, experiment with the settings. Now here's my point. I don't want you to go do this with your whole bloody system. So I'm not saying take your system, throw it all in the bin, or take your system and change everything. What you would do a pilot to prove. Do a test. Pick something that you want to improve your on-time delivery for. Do a pilot to prove. Now, this could be, as I say, take one item, just change some settings inside the item. I would say to you, best thing you can ever do, reduce all your minimum order quantities. So take your computer, if it's got minimum order quantities inside your supply chain, write them all down. I would advise you to write them all to one, but that might be too strong for you. But take one and try it. If it doesn't work, that's fine. That's okay. You've learned something. You've learned that changing those settings doesn't work. But be inquisitive, for God's sake, because these things don't work currently. And you're just sitting there, knife and forking the problem through there and dealing with the crap every day. What else could you do? I would definitely implement a pull system, because I think pull systems are far better than this thing. Again, what would you do? Pick an item, put some stock in the warehouse, decide a maximum, decide a minimum, and do a pilot and see what happens. If it works, put a few more items on a similar system, see how that works. If it doesn't work, don't junk your ERP if you don't like it. If it really is a disaster, and by the way, it's got to be a disaster worse than this, then go back. It's okay. But for God's sake, be inquisitive. I don't understand any business that has business systems that clearly don't function properly, and they just allow the crap to continue day after day. And what they do actually is they put pressure on good people to just dig them out of the mess that gets created by the systems that they've implemented. That's not the way the best companies in the world run. They will be inquisitive. They're looking for a better way constantly. And by the way, that doesn't mean spending money. It just means a better way. Be inquisitive, test systems out, learn what works, learn what doesn't, and then what you're going to do, you're going to improve faster than your competition, and before you know where you are, you're going to be taking over the world and making a bucket load of cash, and that's what we want you to achieve.